Just more full mic. Thank you.
All right, Dave, I'm ready when you
All
are.
right, very good, thanks. I was just waiting for the clock to turn to 8:30, Sarah. So if you say it's okay, we'll go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Nebraska Highway Commission meeting. Just for those of you that are not employed by the department, there will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting for public input or an opportunity for you to speak. Just as a housekeeping matter, they would like you to approach the podium, state your name, spell your name for the record, and then please proceed to make your comments. Thank you very much. Sarah, would you do the introductions and take roll call, please?
Yes, for the record, the State Highway Commission is assembled at the auditorium at NDOT headquarters here in Lincoln, Nebraska. The date is Friday, September 22nd, and the time is 8:30 a.m. I do have a copy of the Open Meetings Act if anyone's interested. Commissioner Koppel.
Present.
Commissioner Fagerland.
Present.
Commissioner McGinnis.
Here.
Commissioner Hawks.
Here.
Commissioner Kindig.
Here.
Commissioner Leithgreen.
Here.
Commissioner Wolford.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The next order on the agenda is to review and approve the August 25th, 2023 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Will you?
Koppel.
Yes.
Commissioner Fagerland.
Yes.
Commissioner McGinnis, did you want?
Abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Hawks.
Yes.
Commissioner Kindig.
Yes.
Commissioner Leithgreen.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolford.
Yes.
All right, minutes approved.
Well, he's already taken 2 official acts before we were able to introduce him, but it's my pleasure to introduce the new District 1 Highway Commissioner, Richard McGinnis. Richard lives in Lincoln, Nebraska. His family is our longtime Lincoln residents. Welcome to the commission. We look forward to working with you and would encourage you to ask any questions of any of us. If you have questions as to process or to issues, and the department itself is always willing to address questions, and I know the commissioners are as well, and we welcome you. And with that, we also would like to thank Mary Gertis. Mary, I think you're in the back there. Thank Mary Gertis for her years of service. She was the State Highway Commissioner for District 1 prior to making a decision that she was going to look at doing other things. So thank you very much, Mary. And I hope you're going to make some comments at the end of the public meeting, right?
Yes, if the meeting doesn't go till forever.
Well, we'll try to control that. The next item on the agenda on the business meeting, the first item are the director's remarks. Director Kramer.
Thank you, Commissioner. So again, thank you, Mary, for your service. We very much appreciate it. We got the chance to talk a little bit, and what you've led us through with District 1, with the Lincoln South Beltway, with some of the other large-scale projects we've had. We've been very appreciative of your leadership, and thank you for your service. So welcome, Commissioner McGinnis. Look forward to getting to know you and using your expertise in a way that's definitely going to help the department. So thank you. On a more somber note, this is the first time that a director especially our very much hurting. Trying to understand what happened, so trying to make sure we prepare for. It's something that you hope that you have the safety measures in place that will not allow it to happen. But when it does happen, you have to react very quickly to take care of your own as well as to take care of the family. And so I've had the opportunity to talk to Christy and the girls at the funeral and just make sure that they're taking care of. Our HR team is on that side. But we have some work to do to make sure that if this were ever to happen again, we as a department are very much valuing the quickness to get the resources out to the folks that need them. So we'll continue to report and work with the commission on that so that you understand exactly what I'm saying right now as we start to understand the situation and what happened and how we can get better and improve with it. So we hold ourselves accountable to a lot, and especially taking care of our own. We will be publishing a safety manual for the department. They aren't linked, but time-wise, it works out that we are hoping that we can continue to reset the safety culture that the agency has so that this never happens again. With that, the maintenance community did have an opportunity this week to gather and also to hear some rather good news and some rather bad news, and I'll let Mo share his news. Maintenance conference is always one of my favorite things every year. It's a really great opportunity to hear from the field some of the innovations that are coming out, and the preservation of our system is really the most important thing that we do. And so to see the friendly competition among districts, to see the camaraderie, to see the leadership coming up and growing, and as well as, the expertise that we have in our maintenance and construction community, it was a good, feel-good moment. So I'm very happy to have done that. We have about 250 people that usually come in for it. It was a great opportunity to get to see some people and also have a joint meeting with the Nebraska State Patrol to start to plan for winter operations. So Husker football season always brings increased traffic to Lincoln, and so we always dust off those relationships, but it's also a really good time to make sure that we are completely focused for winter weather coming out of our summer construction season. So enjoyed getting to speak with State Patrol as well. Looking forward, or I guess looking backwards a little bit, last meeting we talked about the transportation summit. So it was the first time that the DOT had hosted a state transportation summit. Several other states, actually quite a few states, do host it in some fashion. I've been to Ohio's, I've been to Texas's, I've done Tennessee's. And so what we wanted to do is to have a real focus for our kickoff transportation summit. And when we looked for that focus, it was, what is the one thing that we know we need to work on and spend some deliberate time? And we focused this year on our support to our locals, our local public agencies. So as we all know, we have the buyback, we have a Federal Purchase Act, so we buy back federal funds from our local agencies, which means that they get about 90 cents on the dollar back, and they have don't need to go through all of the strings on some projects on the federal funds piece. Well, with this new IIJA bill, and I'll get up and talk about it here in transition, it gave us an opportunity to really highlight to the locals what this opportunity means to them. And Sarah, do you want to go ahead and bring up those slides, and maybe I'll just transition up to the podium? There we go. I thought visuals for this part of the conversation might be a little bit easier.
So as we started to look at what we needed.
Just use this one. Sorry. So as the leadership team sat down and really thought about what was needed for a transportation summit and where we wanted to focus our energy, we looked at the situation in front of us. And so you're very familiar with about every 4 to 5 years, every 5 years or so, we have a highway bill. So this last highway bill got looped into the IIJA, so a much larger distribution of funds that went outside of just transportation. So if you look at the transportation bill that's embedded within the IIJA, it's about a 15% formula increase across our base program. It also created another 4 buckets of funding that we have the ability to utilize. But what it did, and where you hear all of this conversation on all of the money that's available within transportation, those are what we call discretionary funds. So as a state, we've landed about $43.8 million in discretionary funds. Now, the secretary will be here on Monday to announce an additional about $20 million, we believe, but that's going direct to locals. So that's part of the situation that we're working through. And so if we look at the distribution of discretionary funds among our peers or per capita, we are lagging. We are behind as a state. And so that doesn't just impact the DOT, that impacts all of our locals who can be RCs or can be direct recipients of federal discretionary funds. So we took it upon ourselves, knowing that we can't compete for them. We can't put together the application for our local agencies, but what we can do is provide the support that they need to confidently go after these discretionary funds, as well as bring together some best practices. So we really framed the picture so that there was an understanding on what the opportunity looks like, as well as then brought in speakers from across the DOT. Our local assistance director was the main hub for it, Jody Gibson. She speaks to you quite a bit, as well as Jared Walker, who runs our discretionary program. And so through those two, we were able to bring in DOT resources, as well as leverage our FHWA partners. And thank you to our FHWA partners for being an active participant of that. We had 225 local public agencies attend, or individuals from there. And I think the most telling stat that we got out of it was within 48 hours, we had 70 follow-up emails asking for what's next. And so the content was pulled together in a fashion that walked them through it.
but also really, like I said, explain the opportunity. So I wanted the commission to be aware of what we're looking at and what are the main competitive discretionary programs that we'll be talking about that we compete within. So you have your raise, which is what's typically talked about. You know, you can see in there, they've already awarded $2.2 billion and 162 projects within this program alone. So just to go back to that stat, Nebraska as a whole across all discretionary funds has only received 43.8. So if you look, there's additional money left within MEGA. You're in the billions of dollars in almost all of these programs left on the table. So you've got 3 years of IIJA left. We need to, as a state, continue to action this and figure out how to be more competitive and how to help our locals be more competitive. So that's where we spend a lot of our time for our transportation summit. So coming out of that, the conversation that we're having with the governor's office and we're having with NACO and the League of Municipalities is, what have other states done to maximize their federal grant opportunities? So now that we've established that general baseline of understanding on what the opportunity looks like in terms of formula versus discretionary, and that if you're going to go for discretionary grants, you have to be able to roll the dice. And by rolling that dice, you have to be able to put together a grant application. Those grant applications, if you were to bring a consultant in, can cost around $70,000. So we know that going after discretionary funding, just rolling the dice, it's expensive. And it has to be an investment for a local community. So they need technical assistance. Technical assistance can come in the form of many different ways. It can be a online support. So we're looking at a grant matching portal where we can take the opportunities that the Bill Launchpad, which is a federal resource, provides and better match them and tailor them to the local community's needs. We can do training. The area that we look at most locals is they want assistance with grant writing. There is a component to the grant writing where you have to calculate your cost benefit. They need assistance there. That manual is over 200 pages. It's difficult to navigate that if you're only going to do it once or twice in your career. So they need assistance with grant writing. And then you have other states have, through their general funds, put together grant matching funds. So this is another area that we're talking with the governor's office about being able to provide assistance, or what it would look like as a state to provide assistance, and to develop some return on investment metrics to say, if we were to do this, this is what the benefit back to the state would be. There's quite a few models for this. Rhode Island, for example, is completely private, meaning you have businesses putting in funds to be grant matching, meaning you're going to have potentially 60% of that federal grant, the overall cost, be having to be paid by the local. So if they're rolling the dice and they're paying that $70,000 or so for the grant, then they have to come up with their portion of the actual project because it's not going to be 100% federally funded. So it's a big step to put yourself out there. Right now we're going through York. York has done that. They won a trail program grant, which is about $15.6 million. It's a great project. If you talk to Sue Crawford, she says, I went back into 2 strategic plans ago to see what projects continue to bring attention at the state and the local level as being impact. So she found a local regional project that was going to have a large impact on pedestrian safety, as well as assist with freight traffic. So we need to do more of that and to promote more conversations and to support those locals. But as a DOT, our resources are limited. And so we're really trying to have this conversation with our partners at NACO, our partners at the League, the partners at the governor's office, to understand how we could leverage resources throughout the state to better support all of the DOT and honestly all of the locals, DOT, and state government, because Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy, NEMA, they also have grants available under IIJA that they can go to. So more to follow on this, but it's definitely an area that we'll be spending time for the next couple of years. I'll just stay up here and finish. It'll be easier. The last thing that we want to talk about is a bit of a transition from that. On October 4th, so as most of you know, we did pass the bonding bill this last year, which allowed $450 million in bonding capability through 2029. And so bonding is just one form of innovative finance. There's a lot of other forms of innovative finance. Now, we are bound a bit by the Constitution in terms of what we can do and how we can borrow. But as a state, as we start to move out of this pay-as-you-go approach to be able to take advantage of the opportunities in front of us in a fiscally responsible manner, we need to get smarter on what programs are out there that other states are leveraging. So for example, our neighbor in the West Colorado is one of the largest borrowers of TIFIA in the country. It funds and revolves their program, and it allows them to move forward some of the large scale infrastructure projects that they've needed for their significant growth over the last decade or so. And so we've asked Build America Bureau and Build America Center, which is the federal government, USDOT's hand of innovative finance, to come out and speak with us. So they're partnering with FHWA's Office of Innovative Finance to put together a half-day workshop on innovative finance, all things innovative finance. So we're really looking forward to it. We've invited our partners from MAPA, as well as several other local entities who have shown an interest in TIFIA, which is their main product that they provide. And so we'll report on that in our next meeting on October 27th to be able to kind of walk through with the commission what we've learned and how, kind of our way forward for that. So we're very excited. The last thing on funding and finance would be August redistribution. Now, anytime someone gets up and starts talking about August redistribution, Khalil's eyes starts to twitch a little bit. So bear with me. This last year with an IIJA, this previous year, I should say, is when August redistribution started to really nationally be getting quite a bit of attention. And why that is because you had over $700 billion potentially being turned into the feds. So what you have is, if you have contract authority at the end of the year that isn't being used, it gets turned back over unless other entities can use it. It goes into a pool, August redistribution. If you prove you can use that contract authority, then you can compete for it based on how you've expended your funds. So with the increased investment in transportation and IIJA, obviously politically, if you're not spending that money, why do you need that appropriation level? This year, FHWA got in front of that argument and worked earlier with their DOTs to be able to better obligate that contract authority in a quicker fashion. So instead of the first round saying, okay, we can spend about half of that maybe, and then have to go back to the DOTs at the federal highway side, and to the point where you could finally expend that full 700. This year, that the first time the FHWA came out, all the DOTs were able to partner to get that money expended. And so, or the contract authority expended. So for Nebraska, what that means is about 55 million. And that does not mean new money. That doesn't mean additional money coming to the state, but it does give us some flexibility in terms of advanced construction and to move projects where we need to move projects. And to me, what it says is a big kudos to our project delivery team and our project management team and our DEs for getting projects out the door. This means that as a DOT, we're being good stewards of the federal funds that we have available, and we're obligating them on time, getting them out the door. And so I want to thank Amy, I want to thank Brandy, I want to thank all of our leadership here and recognize them, because this is really, for me, a kudos for how well our team is doing. We're expending our federal funds. So thank you guys. And that concludes my, I will touch very quickly on the CR. So we understand there'll be a lot of narrative on government shutdown. It does impact us as an agency, not in terms of payroll or others, but more in terms of projects. So after last year, Congress did get a little bit more sophisticated in how they would be affected on the transportation side. We'll continue to communicate with the commission on what we expect the impact of a CR to be. Most CRs last about 100 days. And so to think that it's going to be a quick turnaround, we just don't have that optimism anymore. It's usually a little bit longer of a stint, which is a bit helpful for us. CR after CR after CR is when we start to get in trouble and it starts to become difficult for us to do our business. So we'll continue to communicate with the commission. So that concludes my
Thank you.
remarks.
Any questions? Hearing none, the next item on the agenda is the Hastings SE update. Mick Sislo? Thanks. Send me home with homework. Good.
Good morning. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Commissioners, Chairman, Director. Good to see you all again, some for the first time. I'm here to present on the Hastings Southeast project. We wanted to bring this project back to the commission. It was presented a few years back, but we made some progress here recently, and so we thought it would be great for the commission to hear that progress and see where we are. There we go. Okay, and so just to kind of walk through this a little bit, we have some purpose and need out in this project that we want to make sure that we're always maintaining, and what's the driver of the project, and that is to replace the pavement. It's deteriorated to a point that it needs to be replaced. There's system modernization that needs to occur, some geometric improvements that have to occur along this corridor through Hastings. We want to improve some safety along with that by improving those geometrics, and then help make it a most efficient operation that we can get through there so we don't have any delays or congestion that could potentially occur. We have a very large interest in this project. Obviously, it's a reconstruction. It's part of the Build Nebraska Act. So it is funded through that funding source. With that, a lot of local business have a lot of interest in this project. There is a lot of business along this corridor. The city of Hastings has been a great partner with us along this project. We have had to take a few steps backwards to get where we are today, and so we kind of wanted to walk through a little bit of that so we kind of understand that. Commissioner Kingdig has been 100% supportive of this project as far as I can tell. He's been great to work with as well. We've had several interactions with the city over the last year and a half. He's been able to attend all those meetings and also additional meetings with the county. And so at that point, I'd like to thank him for that support. We also have local senators that have interest in the project as we move forward as well. So as we step into this, some of the, I guess, the key activities I want to talk about that have occurred recently is a public meeting. And I kind of start off with this because that's our biggest step that we've done here as of late. It's taken us a little bit to get to this because we did have to take a step back in the design and working with the city. Since it is a first-class city in nature, that means there are over 5,000 people live in Hastings. They participate in the cost of the project at a 20% rate. And so obviously in working with them from the original design that was out there, we redesigned the project to meet the needs of what we described in the purpose and need, as well as lessening the impacts and also turning around and making it a more financially stable project for us all to invest in. With that, we worked with the city to get a city resolution. We received that early this year, and then in July, about a month and a half ago, almost 2 months ago, we held a public meeting. At that public meeting, I'll bring to your attention that we had just some of those highlights in green, a lot of details there, but for the most part, the highlights tell you what the public meeting looked like. We had 100 people come to the public meeting. That in itself is an extremely good turnout. We did a lot of outreach. We did over 200 publications of notifications to adjacent landowners and businesses. We did our advertisements. We also have a website in which we had a lot of hits, as you can kind of see there, people viewing our webpage out there on this project. It's still up, so you're welcome to see some of the displays that were presented there and some of the modeling that we had done for the project. During the comment period that revolved around that public meeting, we have a 30-day public comment period before and after. And during that public comment period, we had 33 comments. And so that's kind of where I think I wanted to focus today, was kind of to walk through what we presented in a really high level and kind of show these comments as a general topics and kind of talk about how we address those. The comments we received were basically general support of the project, which was great to hear. We also had a lot of comments about how we were addressing the pedestrian facilities throughout the project. We had a lot of comments about roundabout location and how it functions and what it would look like. And we also had a lot of comments about the truck traffic in the area. And so those are kind of the main 4 topics that we'll talk about today. So as we walk through with the project, this is our project. It's approximately 2.4 miles through the city, around the southeast side of the city of Hastings. It's a 3-lane urban section, and I'll show you the typical in a second. But this is the step backwards that I want to discuss for just a few seconds. And that was the conversion of this project from a 5-lane urban section, meaning 2 through lanes and a center lane, to 2 through lanes and 1 center lane. So we took it from a 5-lane section down to a 3-lane section. The original project was an extension of the 5-lane that was constructed back to the west of this, and it carried through. Through this corridor though, the 5-lane had very large impacts to the community. Obviously, with that widening of a section, we were impacting businesses, homes, a lot of utilities. The cost was substantial. So again, working with the city, who is a cost participant in this, we looked back to see what we could do with a more efficient design that still met all those purpose and needs in moving forward. In doing so, we had to make some adjustments with the design as this through lane was determined and designed. One of those things that we'll talk about is we're kind of in the upper left-hand corner of that map. You'll see where Elm Street and South Street match each other. That's where we have a roundabout proposed, and we'll talk about that in specific detail, but that was probably one of the biggest changes of the project that we had to work through with the community and make them understand, and that deficiencies that provides and why we need that within this design. The project still continues to add sidewalk, street lighting, storm sewer, and hopefully an efficient corridor with the new pavement and the two driving lanes and turn lane as well. So moving forward with some of the details, this is what the project is proposed to look like. It's our 3-lane section, which means that we have 2 driving lanes of 14 foot plus an outside 1-foot curb. So a total of 15 foot on the outside edges with the 14-foot turn lane through the center. And that is for the bulk of the project. And that's the typical that you see in the top. You also notice on the top typical, the sidewalks that are designated on the sides. Those 5-foot sidewalks along with that 5-foot buffer zone and that curb, that was part of a lot of conversation that we had with the community. There is a Good Samaritan community there that is assisted living for the elderly. That community was very interested in the public facilities along this corridor. Currently, there are very minimal sidewalks along this segment of Highway 6. This project will build continuous sidewalks for them. In my conversations with them personally, we had quite a few of them that showed up at the public hearing. And they just understanding that we'll have sidewalks, we'll have curb ramps, to understand they have this curb section along with this buffer zone was very reassuring to them for their mobility. Driving through the project, they are a very mobile community. You'll see them crossing and moving about. And so this is important for them to have access. And so it was a very good key thing that they learned about and were able to reach back and understand that with us. The bottom typical that you see here is the roundabout. As we get into that, we'll show up from the top and maybe a little easier to understand that. But this basically just shows that we have a 20-foot basically driving lane that goes around the roundabout with what we call a truck apron inside that for 15 foot. That truck apron is designed to allow for trucks to go upon with their tracking, and so that trucks can maneuver through these roundabouts as well. And that'll come up here in a little bit of why that was important for us to discuss that. Traffic, as we look at traffic with this, part of our evaluation going from a 5-lane to a 3-lane was traffic analysis to make sure that we're meeting the needs and operation of the future. Traffic in this area is projected to be very steady, with some exceptions to the east half of the project. Outside, we do have some industrial growth going on out there that shows that the vehicles will continue to slightly increase out there over the next 20 years. That traffic of trucks is anticipated to utilize hopefully Showboat Road and utilize the road Showboat North there. And so as far as the project itself, we still need to move forward with it to make sure that we are meeting and modernizing the sections and the pavement. So we still have that driving need to do this, even though traffic is steady. Constructability. The project's slated to be constructed in about 2.5 years. With that construction, we are planning on utilizing a detour. We've worked with the city and the county to define that detour as shown in green here. That's kind of it's a county road. The county, this is a paved county road. The county participated in heavy costs to make that upgrade. The city and the state also participated in funding to improve that section there. With that section, we are slated to use it, like I said, as a detour, but there's a lot of conversation about trying to get trucks over to this on a permanent basis. Right now, since it is a county road, we basically are making our facility access and for trucks to access that facility easy and fluid, and we'll talk about some of these scenarios why that is. But right now we don't require trucks to use that because it is not a state facility. And so we still design Highway 6 to meet all the trucking and traffic needs. So kind of zoom in at that roundabout, and that roundabout is up in the south or the northwest corner of the project, where you see that South and Elm intersect. One of the key things that you'll note is where the current through traffic currently has a through movement in a curve. That curve is being removed as part of this project. That curve allows for mainline traffic to move through in a continuous movement. but we have intersections with that that are coming at a sharp skew. Those skews are undesirable to us and obviously a safety concern that we would like to address with this project. So in doing so, we would move the intersection back over to more of a traditional location where you see it today. With first analysis, with a standard T intersection that you would normally see in a roadway, the functionality of that became a little less than operational for us when we went from the 5-lane to a 3-lane. The reason for that is you can understand that as the through movement of Highway 6, all that through movement has to turn and go left or right, depending on which movement they're going. And so that turning movement poses a lot of phasing obstacles for green lights and red lights so we have a lot of traffic pause there for a considerable amount of time so that traffic can continue to move through. With a roundabout, that gives us the efficiency to not only slow the traffic, but have a more of a continuous and efficient movement. It also provides some safety aspects that, again, the public was interested in, refuge for pedestrians within those medians that exist within there. This configuration too is much less than dual turn lanes, so the footprint is smaller. We were able to shift it towards the southwest or southeast, away from that Duncan ball field. That is a ball field that's very important to the community. So limiting, and in this case, basically all impacts to the ball field itself, we are not impacting that. There'll be some construction on the sidewalk around that, but it will not impact the ball field themselves. The other entities out there that we were also trying to minimize, not only throughout the project, but in this case, at this particular location, Big Dally's Deli, which is an important facility to the community as well. We had a lot of comments concerning that specific food operation as well. With this, we are impacting their parking. We've worked with them directly, and we have we believe, a good resolution, and they themselves gave good support for this project. Eldon's ink up above that is also an important impact that we are trying to minimize too. That is a auto repair facility that we will have temporary repairs to, but we were not having the taking and the large impact that we originally had. So with this design, it's basically given us the ability to minimize those aspects that we talked about, from cost to total impacts along the roadway, but still provide a safe and efficient roadway that we want. Roundabouts are also at a lower maintenance cost overall than a traditional intersection. As part of our outreach with the city and with the community, we wanted to provide them a lot of facts on why these roundabouts are there. There was a lot of questions about why a roundabout and how it functions. There was concern there's a railroad track just north of this that when trains block the intersection, traffic will back up. That operation was concerning to a lot of entities out there. The public obviously wanted to know how this would operate if that would occur. So we had our consultant put together a model that would show a display on how this would function if that would occur. And again, that is on our website. I did not include it as part of the presentation today. I think, Sarah, we can provide them that website if we want to send them there. But at the end of the day, we were able to show them how it was functioned with or without the train, and that it was still efficient and feasible. We also wanted to share with them, just from a national level, this isn't just Nebraska that DOT talking about this. This is from a national level. You've seen roundabouts increase usage all over the state, including in Nebraska. These are statistics that have been done at the NCHRP, national research, to the national insurance companies. In general, what you'll see is that we have about a third or 35% reduction in crashes. And the real important one there is a 76 and plus reduction in injury accidents. And so that is very key to what we're seeing with these projects. So if you add the efficiency that they give plus the safety benefit, they are great tools for us to use at certain locations. We also wanted to let them know that, this isn't our first one, and everybody knows that. Some people are not familiar with them. It's a part of this is educating people on these, giving them a chance to go drive them across the state themselves versus just hearing about them. This one happens to be right outside of Lincoln at Pleasantdale. It does handle large trucks as they move through it. And so we kind of referenced this for them, but then we also referenced several others throughout the state so that they would understand what occurs during this movement. And as we showed this to them, obviously a lot of people paid a lot of attention to it. We have a lot of industry in that area that drives trucks, and so they are interested in how they function just like every other community. We provided them with this, which showed them also those other locations throughout the state. So we have more than this out there currently, but this was some of them that we built over the last 15 plus years. And so we have some historical data that we wanted to share with them. I'll kind of take you to the right side of the slide where we talk about the crashes. In general, what you're seeing there is some pretty significant impacts to those areas. These roundabouts were put in for not only for operational needs, but also for safety. If you look at the total crashes over the last 3 years and you tally up the before and after, you're seeing about a 50% increase. Instead of that national level of 35, for these locations, we're seeing about a 50% decrease in total accidents and about an 80% decrease in serious injury accidents. And so that's a great benefit to all of us. And so again, this is just a chance for them to understand why we need these out there and why we think that this is the best, most efficient, safe use of that intersection in Hastings. The other part of the conversation where we talk about with the city and the community, there is a group within the community, Hastings with a Voice. They had reached out to us a couple times to talk about first the concern of the roundabout that we just got done discussing, and then second with obviously this intersection that's shown in red. Those two conversations have kind of evolved over the last year. From my opinion, I believe the concern with the roundabout that is there currently they have an understanding of that and are accepting of that. A lot of their questions now are saying, hey, should we build a roundabout down in the southeast corner or southwest corner where the red dot is now too? And so we have analyzed that, and we want to step into that a little bit more as far as looking at what we are doing there now and what we believe is the most efficient use again of city funds, state funds, keeping this safe and operational. So currently what you're seeing is that in this particular intersection, it's slightly different than what we're seeing up north. Here, the through movement doesn't have to have a right turn like they do or a left turn up on the north intersection. Here, the through traffic has the ability to maintain a steady flow. So we don't have that operational turning movement that would cause a lot of delay. Here we have basically a J Street connection that we are moving over to be more centralized with the curve so we have better sight distance. We are currently proposing a transition out of that 5-lane into that 3-lane, utilizing the outside lane as a free turn movement for trucks and others to get onto J Street. We are providing then coming south with that 3-lane, a turning movement to come onto it from the north approach again. The movement that is the conversation is the trucks coming around and having to get over onto Highway 6. Traffic has continued to analyze this, and we continue to in the future as well. With what we see projected and what we've seen today, right now by putting in a signal, we would actually add delay. Trucks right now have the ability to come up, stop, go. Adding a signal would cause them to stop if they had a red and wait through that signal. So again, from an efficiency standpoint, it is operational very well today. This will be even a better operation. The intersection is designed and set up though, so that as we continue to monitor this area, should signals be warranted at some future time when more and more, say, trucks or vehicles are using this showboat J Street roundabout or bypass, at that time, then we could modernize this intersection even more with little to no impact by adding signals to it. So the conclusion of what we presented to them was really just the overall implementation, the safety, efficiency of the roundabout, and why we need it at some locations and other locations we don't. I believe we had a very successful public meeting. I believe we've had good positive support over it. The city's here today, so I believe we have good city support for it. Again, we are addressing the safety concerns, the modernization of this area, and we're improving the ability for the trucks to not only utilize our facility, but also to utilize the Showboat J Street facility as well. We are excited to get this out the door, and I believe the city's excited for it. I believe that all the public is excited for it to come. It's been a while since we've had the opportunity to say we're getting close. So what does that mean? The reason I'm here today is not only to update you, but we did come here 2017 to ask for corridor protection or access control. And as we do access control along a project, we're consolidating driveways. So we basically have safer movements where driveways are lined up versus where we have people coming and entering at more of a free will. We did that back in 2017. The commission did grant that. So we've moved forward with the design on that. Reviewing what we did back in 17, the resolution that we received from the commission appears to cover the same as we have today, other than the fact that we have a 3-lane section versus a 5-lane. So we don't believe we need any action from the commission at this time. And so we were hanging on to this and wanted to represent that we had brought that to the board already a few years back. Our timeline then is right now we had that public meeting in July of 23. Design is now progressing and will progress all the way up to the point of where we let it. Our right-of-way efforts will begin hopefully next spring. There are a lot of right-of-way acquisitions and impacts along the project, but those are somewhat minor in nature compared to others. Other than the other design, we have a lot of sidewalk that we need to build. We have that acquisition of access control, and so we, as part of a right-of-way item, so we will be basically dealing with everybody along this corridor, so that takes time. And so that right-of-way acquisition will carry us into basically the fall of 25. And that fall of 25 is when we anticipate the letting of the project, and the main construction of the project will then begin in the spring of 26. That period of letting it in 25 fall to that spring, there could be some other activities that are occurring in there, such as utilities. The utilities that we're working with the city to also get relocated as part of this could begin during those winter months. So you may see construction beginning during that time as well for those activities. And as I said before, the construction is anticipated to take a full 2 construction seasons plus. And so depending on how that all goes with weather and everything, we could see it carry over into 2028. Right now, the project is slated at about $36 million. That's all I have for you today. Any questions or comments?
Any questions from the commissioners? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Very informative.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Lincoln West Beltway. Steve?
Good morning, all. Steve McCullough. I'm in the roadway design group here at the state of Nebraska. Mine's going to be a little bit different. We are re-kicking off the West Beltway, so I'm not going to have as much geometrics as we had on Hastings. A little more high altitude discussion. This one is just a project update. There is no action that I'm seeking from the commission. So on this, just getting right into it, what we are going to talk about. Which one am I hitting here, Sarah? This arrow? Oh. Well, we are going to talk about today's project overview, kind of the ranges of options of what we're looking at, and I'll get a little bit more in that in detail. We have completed a robust traffic analysis corridor study on this segment. And again, what we're working on today, current activities, what's upcoming, and then just kind of close up with, where we're at on cost, schedule, and community outreach. So project overview, and I apologize, I must have clipped out the north arrow. North is to the right. Our corridor is bounded pretty much by tying into what the Lincoln South Beltway completed. And so South Beltway did Saltillo and closed Rokeby. At that time, and I know Nick talked about purpose and need. I decided not to put a purpose and need slide up, but I want to talk about one of the main goals and importance of this project is twofold. One, the West Beltway has been a commitment to freeway, this segment from I-80 all the way really to Highway 2 going to Nebraska City. So we've done the South Beltway. That's a freeway segment. This linkage right now has 4 at-grade intersections that we need to remove to upgrade this to freeway standard. Another important aspect of this job, and I know some of you heard me talk about Lincoln South Beltway quite a bit, and as part of that discussion, I said we're going to divert 70% of the in-town truck traffic onto the South Beltway. And the good news is we were right. It's been, anybody that's driven this corridor can see just our Nebraska Parkway outside the door, how much diverge we've had on truck traffic and using the Lincoln South Beltway. Well, that truck traffic is now using this segment of Highway 77. So we need to upgrade this to freeway standard to complete our commitment of that kind of freight movement around the city of Lincoln. So the 4 intersections on this segment are, one, the simple one is Yankee Hill. Yankee Hill today is just a T at grade. That will be just closed, similar to what we've done on Rokeby. But the 3 major ones, Warlick, Old Cheney and Pioneer. Those signals will be removed. And my next slide is going to talk about what are we going to do there. Now, again, don't have the right geometrics for you to look at because we still are in kind of a concept phase. We hope to have concepts done here soon and vetted, but in a very high altitude sense, we have the no build option, which is kind of our baseline. That's what's out there today, 3 signalized intersection. And then 4 other alternatives that we're considering hard. Of those 4, we're going to have an interchange at Warlick for sure. I mean, that's a commitment we've made. So there will be an interchange at Warlick and 77, or, we've got some development in that area with the new casino. It's been upgraded. City of Lincoln is also doing a major infrastructure work at 14th and Old Cheney that will impact this location. Then when we start talking about Old Cheney and Pioneer, we kind of have a range of options, kind of a bucket list, a what if then statement. Right now, we have an existing NEPA document, and it describes option 2. So that's kind of where we really would like to start is an interchange at Warlick, an interchange at Pioneer, and then a full closure of Old Cheney with roundabouts. So you would have no direct access to 77, and you'd have no way to get over 77. It would be closed. However, there's been some talk, and there were some commitments and even a revaluation of the NEPA document in 2005 that we look a little bit at some different options. One of them being, can we put an overpass at Old Cheney? That's got its challenges on several different fronts. One, environmental. It's kind of embedded within Wilderness Park, very sensitive area here in the city of Lincoln. It also adds cost to the project, and we're fiscally constrained. But we are looking at, okay, if we did an overpass at Old Cheney, can we still build the interchange at Pioneer? Or again, 4 and 5 are kind of just hybrid combinations of the two. Close Old Cheney, but then only put an overpass at Pioneer. That one kind of getting some direction, mainly because one reason we walked back and model or re-looked at the corridor study was it was a very aged document, and the city of Lincoln has just changed so much from that time in land use west of 77. Maybe didn't build out exactly what we thought back then. We also need to just get it updated to 2050 numbers. So now, we're looking at, can we just build, is it adequate enough to just build overpasses at Old Cheney and Pioneer? One thing you're definitely not seeing on here is anything at Old Cheney that has an interchange. One, it's just too close for spacing between Warlick and Old Cheney. Even if we wanted to, really would take a large step to put an interchange at Old Cheney and get spacing between the 2 interchanges for weaving and ramp movements and elements like that. Next one, I know this slide's busy, so maybe not drill into actually all the details, but this is just a page out of the corridor study. And what I wanted to demonstrate a couple things. One, the previous slide, we have vetted all that in an operational sense. So any one of them would work when it comes to operations. When it comes to level of service, we can meet our criteria with any one we cherry picked out of that combination. This one is demonstrating option 2, or what's in the NEPA document today, which is an interchange at Warlick and an interchange at Pioneer with a full closure at Old Cheney. Now, kind of what Mick was saying, we are not only just looking at what we do to our highway, but we're looking at infrastructure on both the city and the county. What level of service and impacts will we have downstream to our other partners? We're also looking at roundabouts versus signals, opening day condition versus 2050 numbers. Right now, roundabouts are going to be a viable option on some of these components. And we've done that. I mean, we demonstrated the one out at Staplehurst? No, that's not. What was the one we just showed? Pleasantdale, thank you. But we used interchange roundabouts on a lot of Lincoln South Beltway movements instead of signals and or just stop control. So just wanted to highlight that we have got the traffic vetted. What our next steps is, again, the corridor study has been completed. Again, why I'm not showing you any of these concepts is they're really in progress right now. We have just restarted this job here in 23 with new signed contracts with our consulting partners, and really wanted to get South Beltway tidied up before we put a lot of focus on West. So we're dusting off a lot of information. Hope to have that range of alternatives to us here in the next month. And on that, what we want to do is take the outcomes is we want to look at the operations. We want to look at the environmental impacts. That's going to be a big step on knowing, what are we doing to our environment, our agency partners to help us make a decision on where to go. And then obviously cost is going to be a factor in there. Put that all into a matrix, probably a weighted matrix. Arrive at some proposals that we feel we're comfortable enough to take out to the public, and take it out to the public in a re-kickoff meeting, but also with enough homework that we can articulate what we think a preferred solution is, but not far enough that we can't absorb and listen to comments and adapt to community comments. Again, a couple of other things where our survey was so old on this and standards have changed that we have initiated a complete corridor survey on this one. We do have a NEPA document decision that we are going to go through a reevaluation process with it. And then again, I just mentioned we'll anticipate a public meeting here early in 24, somewhere like January, February of 24. Yeah, why don't you help me out there, Sarah? Schedule costs, stakeholders. One, on the cost, it is in our program book. I'm sorry, one on schedule. It's in our program book right now for the +5, so somewhere between 25 and 29. I will tell you internally, we are trying to get plans wrapped up by fall of 24 to allow this job to move up in the program if dollars are there. But we do have quite a bit of work to get done between now and then. But our goal is to have plans wrapped up in a year plus. Current estimate on this one's just a hair under 35 million. I only put the caveat of the 10% design. I'm not thinking we're going to have scope creep on this, but as we compare options and just inflationary, how our industry is going, thought I just throw that in there. Besides our team, we are meeting quarterly with both the City of Lincoln and Lancaster County design teams in our technical meetings. City of Lincoln, again, has some infrastructure going in that will impact our project at 14th and Old Cheney. Lancaster County has some infrastructure on Old Cheney that will be impacted by some of our decisions. So they're at the table with us. And then lastly, on stakeholders and how we're maybe transitioning to public involvement. One other aspect, something that we were successful on South Beltway was, kind of developing a couple stakeholder groups. I would say right now we're looking at 4 separate groups. One, local businesses, especially those around Pioneer, local and regional elected officials. Richard, you'll definitely get invited to that one. So Friends of Wilderness Park, it's the sensitive area. And then the bicycle groups, also a sensitive area. These groups typically like to have their own audience. They don't like just coming to public meetings and having to grab somebody and talk about their wants, needs, and desires. So we're gonna break those out separately and meet with them. I think I'm on my last one. I do want to say I did bring our consultant with me, Olson Associates. We've recently signed up with them. Twofold, they're doing fantastic and they're going to get us to a finish line. But also if you get sporty on questions, I can always lean over and ask how we're doing. So on that, I know I kind of went through the material fairly fast. I do think we'll probably have another one of these before we get to the finish line, when I have more information to kind of present. Again, I saw that you had aged decisions on Hastings. There is some aged approvals on this project too that we'll probably have to dust off and make sure we don't need to refresh. But on that, any questions?
Any questions from the commissioners?
Good.
Hearing none. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
We'll look forward to another report.
All right. I think I enjoy coming and talking to you guys.
I'm going to be curious to see how that impacts that 14th Street intersection.
Yeah.
That is a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's not our nightmare.
Yeah.
And we are working with them. I will say on the traffic analysis, that was included.
Was it? Good.
One of the reasons why we had to refresh it, just because land use and operations have been changing.
Yeah, that's good. I'll look forward to seeing that. Next item on the agenda, the Ashland Roundabout. Matt?
So thank you to the commission for being able to present this morning on what's been a pretty interesting and unique project for us. My name is Matt Neiman. I'm the traffic control engineer here in traffic engineering for the department. So the intersection in question is the intersection of US 6 and Nebraska 66, just outside of Ashland. So this gives you kind of a look of where the intersection is, how it relates to the interstate. Platte River runs there on the right side of the screen. And it doesn't quite show on here, but this intersection is a little unique for Ashland because Ashland has some challenges. There's a rail line that parallels Highway 6, and Salt Creek parallels Highway 6 in this area too. So to access Highway 6 from Ashland, there's 2 access points from Ashland, and then another one if you go around by the guard camp a little farther to the east. Existing conditions in Ashland, Highway 66 is stop controlled. Ashland is up to the north there. It's a pretty wide intersection. It was which helped us out with this project. A little background on this intersection. In 2006, Highway 66 was rerouted from the south to construct a 4-way intersection here. Prior to that, Highway 66 kind of snaked through town to create another T intersection a little bit farther to the east. In 2019, from March to July, we had a temporary traffic signal in service here because of increased traffic detour routes from the floods in the spring of 19. And in 2021, we proposed a modular roundabout to the city. Some other additional information on this intersection, because of traffic volumes on Highway 6, because of just the access points to town, we did see some operational issues from people trying to leave town. And there was some safety concerns with some right angle crashes that occurred at this intersection. So our task with this intersection was, can we install a roundabout here using temporary traffic control devices? So this picture is from 2012, just south of our office here at 14th Street and Pioneers. There was a reconstruction project down there, and there was a temporary roundabout that was built down there to control traffic through the intersection, help with the phasing with the construction to the south of the intersection. This was our first look at this. This functioned really well through this project, but we didn't feel that these devices would hold up for the period of time that we were potentially looking for them. A couple months during a project when a contractor is on site every day is one thing. We didn't think that this is going to really function for a longer term. So we started looking at other options. What else is out there? What else can we build this roundabout with? So most of these were eliminated just because they couldn't do what we wanted them to do with just purely size. So these three here, they work if you want to build some little mini roundabout for a neighborhood, but for the size that we were looking at, they were essentially eliminated because of that. The one product that we did go with, this Vortex design on the bottom right corner, they had the flexibility with the design of their product that was going to allow us to do what we were looking at doing. So working through that project or that process with that company, we came with a original concept, just to see if this is going to fit in the intersection. Is this intersection big enough that we can do this without a lot of widening, without a lot of grading, something that was going to maybe not get us into a lot of permit issues with building this at this intersection. As a common theme this morning, this is essentially the roundabout that's at Pleasantdale. Pleasantdale roundabout is used a lot for us because it has the truck traffic, as Mick mentioned, and we know it works. So this is something we can take to the community and say, we know this is going to work because it works right here, a similar size. So community engagement, in October of 21, we met with a few city officials from Ashland just to introduce this topic. They've brought this intersection to our attention several times. And we wanted to see what their thoughts were before we would go any farther. That meeting went well, so we went to the city council in November of 21. And one thing we asked them for with that meeting is, will you give us a resolution that supports this project? So for us to go farther, we wanted to have a good feeling that they were going to support us with this. So that led to what we called the Ashland Pilot Project. This project was let in August of 22. We gave this project 45 working days. And that was important with anything we did here. Over the last 10 years, we've been in and around Ashland several times on Highway 6, on 66 through town. They had a project on Silver Street. There's been a lot of action in Ashland. We didn't want to do anything that was going to close something again just in this short amount of time. So 45 working days, pretty quick project that we could get in and get out. The cost was just over $1.4 million, and $840,000 of that was for the purchase and the installation of the panels, the direct bid item that was for those. There's some other things. There's some, we had to replace some shoulder with some pavement that we could drive on. There's a tiny bit of grading because of that, and we had some other things, permanent signing, some overhead lighting that needed to move with the project. This is a design that went into the plans. As you can see from here, it's essentially what we had in that original concept. A little, some minor tweaks, but this project was designed like we would design any other roundabout. We had the same considerations, how are vehicles getting in, turning movements, what speeds are these curves designed for, really similar to anything that we would build out of concrete. So in the middle of June this year, these panels showed up on the project site. The really interesting thing with this vendor is they start with a panel that's 14 to 16 feet long. They're a foot wide and about 2.5, 3 inches thick. The material is the same material that the railroad uses right now for their railroad ties. So it's a composite material, has about a 50-year design life to it. But these panels all come on pallets. They're all individually numbered, and it's like putting together a puzzle. You can see on the end here, every piece in here has a unique number, and that has one spot in that roundabout where this is going to go. So There's no cutting on site, no drilling of holes. You find the pallet that these are on and start laying them out. The pallets are all set out, so you're not going through 20 pallets to find your one panel that you need. The panels are set out or grouped together based on where those are going to go. These are all anchored down, so the panels have either 2 or 3 anchors in them, depending on where they're at and how long they are. The middle picture here shows a cross section of it. Interesting thing about these, that plug and anchor acts as a little bit of a shock absorber. So if somebody hits it with something, somebody drives over, it allows for a little bit of movement. One question we always ask people when we're looking at new products is, how does this work if a snowplow hits it? How does this work in the winter? But with this movement here, that gave us some good feeling that it was going to work with where we're at. A couple of the initial installations they had of this product were up in Canada, so they have the same issues up there that we do, and gave us a good reassurance. Here's a couple of pictures of when the installation began. I believe they had a 4-man crew doing this, one guy drilling holes, one guy blowing the hole out, and then they epoxy the anchor in and put the bolt in and tighten it down. All right, now for the cool things, the videos here. This was July 13th. I believe the panel installation began the day before this. It's a pretty fast-moving operation. The really cool thing about this video here is from this point on, this intersection operated as a roundabout. So stop signs are pulled from Highway 66, and the traffic on 66 has equal access to the highway, just like everybody on Highway 60 here's. Forward that 5 days to the 18th of July. The center circle is complete now. You can see the guys are still up there installing the anchors for it. But everything's laid out just in a matter of 5 or 6 days. There's guys working on the splitter island on the south side of the intersection, laying that out and getting ready for those to be fastened down. Another 6 days later, those splitter islands are all complete. And this is operating more as a finished product now. You can tell through this intersection, there's a lot of truck traffic. There's a lot of, because of the quarries in the areas, there's a lot of rock trucks come through here. There are a lot of other trucks that come through here. I know one morning we were standing out there and there's a truck from a chicken plant that comes through here about 8:30 every morning. That is not something you want to witness. But it was a consistent 8:30 every morning. Apparently that truck came through. And the last one here, July 27th, everything is essentially done. So it doesn't show real well on here, but you can see on the right side of all the approaches, there's a gray curb there. The gray curb's there just to try to control some of the traffic as they're coming in, give them a little bit of a barrier to slow them down. Since then, permanent signing has been installed. All these barrels are gone now. We have delineators on the right side. We have some delineators in the middle just to kind of provide a little bit of a barrier for people as they're driving through, you know, help control traffic and keep them where they should be. Highway 6 is a pretty important route for us. It's a parallel route to the interstate. So if there's anything that happens on the interstate that would require traffic to detour, they're going to come down this road. So anything that we looked at for this intersection, we always keep that in mind. Post football games, especially night games when everybody leaves at the same time, this is an important route for the same reason. There's a lot of people that use Highway 6 to get back to Omaha. This was about 10:15 Saturday night. I watched it for an hour and a half or so, off and on. last weekend, and everybody moved through pretty good. There was, you know, very little competing traffic in the intersection, but there was really never a queue more than, you know, what showed on the screen. So it worked pretty well. You can also see on this picture that the delineators that are on the right side, what's in the middle, this is how it is right now. This is essentially the finished product of the intersection. Another couple pictures of the approach to it as you come up on it. You know, we don't have the ability on this one to have a mound in the center because of how the construction is. But with the devices that we have in there, we're pretty comfortable with how it operates. We're pretty comfortable that this gives people the warning they need to know how to negotiate the intersection. So some fun facts about this intersection. Ours is the largest of the 16 that this company has built. 3 of the original ones are in Canada. There's 13 in the United States. I believe ours is twice as big as the largest one that they had built before. The company did reach out to the Guinness Book of World Records to see if they could be on there, but the Guinness folks wanted $30-some thousand to come out to do their verification. They decided that wasn't worth it. There's just under 1,600 total boards in the intersection with almost 4,700 anchors, all drilled one at a time. And there's 56 pages of installation drawings. So the installation drawings look like this. They show a table. This one is easier because there's 30 arrays in the circle. Every one has the same piece depending on where you're at in the array. But the board numbers that show on the end are all listed on there, so you know where each piece goes in this puzzle. So what's next with this? We're going to monitor this over the winter, see how this works, watch the operations, you know, reach out to our guys. What do you think about plowing snow around this? Look at the design details, or if there's something that we need to do different. Do we need to add more delineation in here? Do we have too much? And then look for additional sites. Again, this intersection, we had a really nice benefit because the intersection was pretty big already, and it didn't require a whole lot of other work. But we're always looking for other sites that we can do something similar. So, any questions?
Any questions by the commissioners? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Very informative. Was that the director? What do you think?
You know, we've been hearing about this project since before we even put up the temporary traffic control measures after the flood. And so, you know, I remember going out to one of the Rotary meetings in the morning, and they were very determined that an intersection, signalized intersection was the only thing that would work. And hearing the communication that's come out over the duration of the project, as Matt said, it was a quick installation. So people very quickly were able to see how it would work, to see a community get around an idea. I mean, there's still some naysayers. There's still some that say it's loud. You know, the rumble strips are loud. There's 2 large communities around it. The traffic moves. It speaks for itself. The installation was quick. The lighting works. I think it's a really good example of bringing innovation to a problem when the resources for the overall solution weren't there. It's thinking very creatively about how we can meet the need of a community. I think the communication was there and it worked.
Yeah. Be interesting to see what the post-winter autopsy is. Next item on the agenda, I asked Sarah to put this on, and it's kind of as follow-up to our last couple of meetings. in the past, commissioners, we've talked about when should we hold meetings, or should we look at holding meetings at a different time or on a different day? Having attended the last two meetings, one of which no one from the public attended, and all of the Department of Transportation staff and representatives had gone out there, and we didn't have anyone from the general public appear. And then last month, when we were in North Platte, it was a very good meeting. There were several people that appeared, but one of the reoccurring comments that either I or some of the department people, namely Sarah, heard was 8:30 in the morning just isn't convenient. I was lucky to be here. I know of other people that couldn't be here. And so hearing those kind of comments and knowing that our charge is to be accessible and a commission that listens to our constituents so that we can bring that information or the comments back to the department, I thought it might be something that we could revisit, talk about. I don't know that we need to take action today, but I'm thinking, should we think about when we go outside of the city of Lincoln for these meetings? Should we think about moving those meetings to a Thursday late afternoon, early evening, where we would meet at 5 or 5:30, conduct the meeting. Then for those that wanted to, we could go have dinner. And those that wanted to could either go home or stay all night and then go home the next morning. There's any number of options, but 2 months ago when we were out there, we had several high-ranking NDOT people at the meeting. And I thought to myself, surely there has to be a better and more efficient way for the department to utilize its resources and for the commission to get to the general community. And so I thought maybe one of the easiest ways was meet different days, meet different times. So that's why it's on the agenda, and I'd open it to comments or suggestions. Some of you have been on longer than I have. I'm looking at Doug and I'm looking at Greg. Jerome, what are your thoughts?
Can you unmute your mic too if you want to talk?
I'd be open-minded to discussion. I think the question that I would have is, I think 24 hours out of the day, we're going to have conflicts, whether it's at 8:30 in the morning, whether it's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or whether it's at 5:30 in the evening. I think we should have management of the Department of Transportation actively involved in this decision. What's most efficient for them? There's a lot of resources that go to these outstate meetings from the commission or from the department. And I think efficiency on their part needs to be a part of our consideration. I'm not in favor of making change just for the sake of making change, but if it's legitimate, I'm open to it. So that's my input.
Thank you. Doug, Greg, Jim, Rick.
Dave,
I won't ask you.
I've served on, city council and county, and the highway commission for a long time. And, I find that when you do, a project or something that people are interested in, they'll show up. If you're doing a good job, whether a budget meeting or whatever, people tend not to show up. I actually asked in my district after one of our meetings about time, and basically they said that the 8:30 meeting, if there's something that they would want to talk about, they'll be there. I don't think it matters whether you do early morning or late afternoon. You're going to inconvenience some people, and others So I just think they'll show up. We changed our time here a few years ago and went to a later time. We didn't see any change whatsoever in the amount of attendance. So I think we're okay with our 8:30 meeting. I do.
Okay. Greg?
I think one of the things you need to keep in mind, a lot of it has to do with what's going on in the district and what's there. And what Doug said, if things are going well, people are not going to show up. Last month in North Platte, they have a lot of capital projects that they're looking at that they want to see this department bring forward. And we had pretty good attendance. That's what these meetings are for, is we got to give the districts opportunities so that the people can come out and present to the Department of Roads. I think these meetings are important. Doesn't always happen. If I remember right, the last meeting in District 2 in Omaha, we didn't have anybody there. The most populous district we have, and it wasn't. So there are a lot fewer capital projects in the smaller districts going on. I don't know. If we think we can do it Thursday night and get better attendance, then let's give it a shot. But also take it, if nobody's showing up, maybe the district there is doing a good job. And if people are mad, if people have a problem, they're going to be here. We've seen that over the years. They're going to come and they're going to tell us they're unhappy. So.
Jim? Thoughts?
Yeah. On. Not working. How'd you do it?
Her magic fingers.
Yeah, I guess. I guess, thinking about it, there's always going to be a lot of pros and cons of when you have the meeting. So if you change it from what we're doing now, you're going to have the same problem. And I don't see that really enhancing anything. So kind of the contention is, my thoughts are if we would change it to a Thursday, for instance, you're probably taking Friday away from your duties as well. So here we are all day Thursday and all day Friday. At least now when we have it Friday, most of us can drive to it late afternoon Thursday and be here on Friday. So I'm not sure I'd be too in favor of making a change.
Okay. Jim?
I've had the opportunity in my career to work both with county and city, much as Doug said. The county commissioners would meet at 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning. The city council would meet in the evenings at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. Excuse me. It didn't seem to make any difference. If there was something on the agenda that they were interested in, especially a road project, a bridge project, something like that, they would be there. Typically for a budget hearing or something, just a routine meeting, if you will, very seldom did anybody show up. Many times for the 1 and 6 year road program, again, other than local officials, we wouldn't have a lot of public involved. Like Greg said, I have to agree with him too in saying that for the most part, our districts are doing a great job maintaining the roads. And I really feel that at least out in our part of the country, if there's a project or something that is of definite interest to a particular group, they're going to be there. It doesn't matter what time of the day or what time of the week it is. So I guess with that, if it's more convenient for the department or their people to have it at a different time, we certainly could try it. I, excuse me, personally would be surprised if it made much difference in the attendance.
Well, Jerome mentioned we should ask NDOT management perhaps for what their input is. Director, do you have any thoughts at this point, or would you like to just think through it?
A bit of both, if I may. One of the questions that I have and what I'm hearing is that there is a need and a desire from the commission to heighten participation from the public, and that most of that is driven by the content in the meeting. And if that is the fact, then maybe it's not the time, as you gentlemen have said, that we need to be looking at, but maybe it's the duration. You know, we meet 6 times a year. Maybe there is an opportunity, and would the commission be open to where we change that, or we looked and altered that to potentially quarterly? And so that we could have a more condensed schedule. Now that changes our ability to get to every district in the time frame that we currently have developed for the program. And so I guess my question is before the DOT takes us to look at it, should we put more on the table than just the time and really look at the way that we engage the commission, how we do meetings, how we evolve? I think that would be the bigger task for the agency, to make sure that it's consistent with how we want to address the public, how we want to involve them in our decision making, to make sure that when we do so, there's content and meat on the bones. And I think, Sarah, you can help us refresh on what the statute requires. Because there is always an opportunity to change that with the legislative cycle coming.
So right now we meet 8 times a year. 4 of those are in the district, 4 of them are in Lincoln. Statute only requires 6 times a year. So we could reduce them and change the content that way without having to change the statute, just reduce the amount that we meet. That in of itself might change the attendance. That is one option.
I know in my district, it's very important for us to show up every 2 years. Very important.
I would agree with that. The old way was once every 8 years.
Yeah.
When I came on the commission, and that was not enough.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I guess my question is, what was the participation at your last location meeting when we were there?
We had.
And how do we
There were
drive
10
and make
people
sure?
there. But I'll be honest, when they're coming in my district, I usually, in addition to what the department sends out, I call people and say, look, you want some input? This is your opportunity. That's what it's for.
Yep.
And, I do think even if people aren't showing up, there's enough money spent in this department that you need to give them the opportunity. If they don't show up, that's on them. But this department has a responsibility to give them an opportunity to have input.
And I think we want to keep that.
And that's our
We
mission,
want to
too.
turn that up. We want to make sure that engagement is there and that we increase that opportunity is what we're looking at doing. And so, I mean, it's not just the Highway Commission meetings when we're out in the public. As Mick said, we have public meetings. You see a lot of this information be taken to the public in different forms outside of the Highway Commission. I think that there are ways that we could potentially heighten, to your point, if we have more phone calls or if we have more outreach. Either way, I think in order for, what was brought to the table was that we do have meetings where we have 2 to 3 people in attendance. And it's Omaha, it can be rural areas, it doesn't matter, but there has to be substance in the meeting to draw people there. But we've also gotten more efficient and met the public where they are by providing online options. That matters. And we have to look at that as well. And so my piece is it's not just time that it drives accessibility. We need to look at multiple things. It needs to be content. It needs to be online formats. So if you want the DOT's input, that's what I would be bringing to the table, not just the time, but how do we look at how we increase engagement so that this body continues to be the public's voice and you have an active participation from the public.
Yeah, all good comments. I agree with you, Greg and Doug, that we have to be out there. I agree with you, Director, that there are other ways that we can do it. And I guess I'm just inviting the discussion and thought process for all of us to say, how do we make it better? How do we make ourselves more efficient? And how do we operate more efficiently as a commission? So As I said, there's no action to be taken today. I just encourage everyone to think through it, and perhaps next month we can have some additional discussion on it. Thank you very
And in
much.
December is when the draft calendar gets put together. So I can remove, what I can do is mock up 2 schedules. And so that way you guys have something to discuss. Put that in front of you in December. That works.
We meet in October, right?
We meet in October. We're in Holdridge for the
okay.
District 7 program hearing and Highway Commission meeting. But in December, we're in Lincoln, and that's usually when the draft schedule, you guys get a first look at it. So I could put together 2 options, and that way it'll give you guys something to look at and discuss.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the public input portion of the agenda. That is the opportunity for those of you that want to make a comment to come and introduce yourself, spell your last name, and make your comments. And so I would, at this point in time, invite anyone that wants to make a comment to the microphone.
My name is Mary Gerdes, Marygerdes. Greetings to all. I would like to take this opportunity to express my thoughts concerning the time spent serving from December of 2015 until August of 2023 as a member of the Nebraska State Highway Commission representing District 1. It has been indeed a privilege to serve in this position. Before coming to the commission, the convenience of travel on the highways of Nebraska was something I took for granted. Now I have a new appreciation and respect for all it takes to make and keep these roads traveled, something that truly impacts not only the safety of the public, but also the impact they have on the economic well-being of the state. With this, I wish to thank Director Kramer and all of the members of the staff whose professional dedication has made the Nebraska Department of Transportation one to be proud of their service, of their professional dedication, and the service to the people of Nebraska. Thank you all for jobs well done. I truly appreciate that. I also wish to thank fellow members who serve on the commission. Each of the 8 districts in the state is unique, with different topographies, different challenges, and it was so informational to meet together as a commission to understand what each member experienced in their district and how best to serve their public. Nebraska is a state with 10,000 miles of highways to be maintained. There is also construction ongoing in building of new roads and new projects. In serving, many things were routine, but those coming to my mind as rather big deals, challenging NDOT while I was serving on the commission, was in 2019, and I believe this has also been mentioned, floods and repairing many hundreds of miles damaged by the flooding and roads and bridges. In 2020, we had those COVID years. Then in 2020 through 2022, the construction of the South Lincoln Beltway, which ended up being probably the largest projects in the state of Nebraska ever. With this in closing, I wish to express my appreciation for serving on the Nebraska State Highway Commission. It was good to get to know each and every one of you. You've done a fantastic job in what you do, and I truly appreciate all your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary.
Good morning, Lee, L-E-E Vroman, V-R-O-O-M-A-N, Director of Engineering, City of Hastings. I just want to provide a few comments on the Hastings Southeast project. First of all, I'd like to thank Wes and Mick and their teams for continuing to push this project forward. This is a very important project for the City of Hastings and the development of that area of town. The city council did pass a resolution of support earlier this year. And along with that, we have budgeted money for utility improvements as we work with Mick and his team to see what those might be so that we could start that in the coming fiscal year if appropriate. We fully support this project and are excited to get it going. And I would just like to thank the commission's continued support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, the next item is on the agenda, remarks from the chair. I just thank everyone for their participation and their efforts and for the service that you provide to the department. You guys do a great job and we appreciate it. Public meetings calendar, Sarah?
So the next scheduled highway commission meeting is October 27th, like the third, and that's at the, we're actually at a different location this year, so we're at the Holders District office. And that's going to be in Holders, Nebraska on West, in Holders, Nebraska on West 4th Street. Those details are going to go up this week. And then next month, we'll probably get a few public meetings that will be going on the calendar as we
Thank you. Anything else, commissioners? Hearing nothing, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.